With that said, brothers and sisters, we're going to get into this discussion. We have to really talk about what does it mean now that Barack Hussein Obama was reselected. So let me just go down because, we've been doing this for a few years now, and I'm pretty confident now. Pretty much most of the things we tell people are going to happen. So I'm not concerned that we'll give you any misinformation because we've been pretty accurate in what we've been saying. We told people that they won't have a fancy little runoff here, but that Barack had already been selected. He'd be back in office, and what he would do. We said that he would launch the full-scale invasion of the African continent, which Yemen is not in Africa, but it's right on the outskirts of Africa. And the day after he was reselected, he bombed Yemen. So you haven't seen anything yet, though. The full-scale invasion of Africa is on the list. So let's talk about the order in which we think things are going to occur, and then we'll talk about the things that are going to be here on the national level. And so I want you to, these are for our thinkers tonight. We're going to have some real serious dialogue. We'll let you come in, call in 760-569-7676. That's 760-569-7676. Participation code 948-656 #. That's 948-656 #. We want you to call in and make your comments and see what you see on the horizon as well. But we're going to just pretty much lay this out so that people can get an idea internationally of the battlefield that we're living on now. Okay, so let's draw the picture of what the end objective is. The end of the objective for the small hat, the white so-called Jew, is to destroy America, make it collapse in on itself, create madness and race war between black people, Hispanics, and white Anglo-Saxons, to abandon America and this whole regime, collapse it, relocate on the African continent, take the African continent, exterminate a substantial enough amount of black people that the only ones left will be their slaves, and relocate as a white nation with white Anglo-Saxon middle management of the continent of Africa with small hat rulership, just like America, where the small hats rule America now, but the whites are the police, the middle managers, the wardens at the jails. They manage this enslavement plantation called America today, the white Anglo-Saxon. And when they're not middle management, they are to some degree enslaved by the small hat elite as well. We're not concerned about that, but we're just discussing the basic construct of what the small hats intend to do. So the small hats idea, again, they're going to move, they're going to collapse this country in its entirety, engrawl it in war. Leave, pack up from America and Israel and go to African continent and displace African people through murder, torture, and enslavement, and take the African continent. That is their objective and goal, which means over the next 50 years, the African continent is going to be embroiled in full-scale absolute warfare, the same as North and South America were when Columbus came to the Americas. So just to give you just a few little tidbits here, and then we're going to move more into this because we don't have to go all into it. But anyone who's been paying attention to the History Channel specials, you'll see that the small hats have been coming out saying, oh, all ancestors trace back to Africa. So Africa is the home of all people. So what they're really doing is they're just biding their excuse for their transition going back to the African continent. If you look at Angola, the small hats from Portugal are pouring in by the thousands. We're talking about 10, 20, 30,000 at a time, just moving in, taking over the nation of Angola. I think, if I'm not mistaken, they have some high-ranking small hat Portuguese in the Angolan government who are just facilitating that. And of course, our brothers and sisters being so foolish as we have been, as the Native Americans were, not to understand what it means to see a white face in your midst. It means slavery, death, and bloodshed. The people are not responding adequately, and the whites are just moving in, taking over. I just got a text email from a sister I've known for years who travels back and forth to the African continent for a job. She texted me and essentially said, I just got back from Nairobi, Kenya. The whites have taken over. She said all through the streets, all on the plains, all you see in Nairobi, Kenya is whites. They have taken over that region and that city, and they're moving out into take over more. So we have a massive scale assault of the African continent by Europeans. Barack Hussein Obama, the president-select of the United States of America now, is the facilitator of this reality. He is the linchpin in it. Now, so let's talk about some of the things that are going to happen, and hang on tight with us, brothers and sisters. About 8 o'clock hour, we'll definitely be on and let you come in here and comment on this. But let's talk about what's going to happen. One, he gets into office, he's going to launch war against Iran. He's going to launch the war against Iran, and essentially force the Iranians' hands to assault Israel. When the Iranians, which they probably will, if they assault Israel, then the Israelis are going to have to flee. And where are they going to go? They're going to go to Africa. That's where they're going anyway. It's a good excuse for them to have to leave Israel. They're going to Africa anyway, so it doesn't matter. So just like they created with the Balfour Agreement, they created a calamity called World War I, the loss in World War I, and then they used the Holocaust in World War II as an excuse to become the sympathy whores of the world, where they can get anything they want because, oh, the Holocaust, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Well, they use that very effectively, the slaughter of a few small hats, and then they embellish the numbers and make it look much worse than it was, and leave out the fact that they were the ones that financed it, and use it as a way to facilitate taking the land of the Palestinians, which really was truly African land from African people that was stolen by the Arabs. But at any rate, how they were able to use it to justify to do that, they're going to do the same thing in Africa. They're going to make some silly justification of why some place in Africa belonged to them. Their ancestors were there, some gibberish, and they're going there. So it's not two ways about it. That's their objective. Now, in order to do that, so we said they're going to launch the war in Iran, which is going to force the Iranians to respond. The Iranians are going right to Israel. When they go right to Israel, the Israelis are going to flee. Not they're going to lose in their entirety. They're going to fight a war, and they're going to use the U.S. to go in a war with Iran. It's going to be a big thing, but they're going to attack Israel. And it's going to be enough for many of the Israelis to say, we have to leave. So this is a way for them to get many of the Israelis to leave and relocate to the African continent as well. In addition to that, so that's one thing. The Iranian war will be a basis to launch that war, to try to launch a war against the Arab world that will result in a justification of the small hats relocating in Africa. Another thing they're going to be doing is using their HARP system of creating massive destruction in this country as a justification to move their middle management, which is the white Anglo-Saxon and some of the small hats, out of this country and tell them you got to go to Africa. Essentially what they'll do is, by continuously creating terrible calamities in this country, they'll say, oh, this nation is getting destroyed, so you got to leave. And that is because they can't talk whites to leave in this country because they believe it's theirs. And if they stay, then it's a pressure cooker that's going to slowly erode with black people and the Hispanics, the red man, eventually uniting and taking over this country and having the resource base of the United States of America to launch war against the enemies of both our races around this planet. They're not going to wait for that to happen. So they got to push the whiteys out. The whiteys would not leave on their own. So the way they're going to push them out is through HARP. Just keep blowing up their houses and damaging stuff, and fires and hurricanes and tornadoes and every kind of catastrophe you can imagine they can manufacture. And through these manufactured catastrophes, the whites are going to say, we got to get out of here. And then they'll say, yeah, don't worry about it. You can get out of here, go to Africa. That was what the movie 2012 was about. That's what all of their films are about now. If you watch them, it's about relocation on the African continent. And that being the major goal and objective of what they're trying to do. Now, while that's going on, the problem they're having is that people now who did not before understand that there were a group that was running the planet, small hats, white so-called Jews, are organized for the destruction of the world. The information is out now. So now they have a little bit of a problem. And that problem is they can't just do these things without people knowing what they're doing. It's only a certain amount of time that goes by that people know what's happening and are aware of it and don't like it before they actually organize and do something. So their time on that is pretty short. The whites, Anglo-Saxons, have armed themselves to the teeth and are ready to go to war with these small hats, which creates a major problem for the small hats. The small hats now are in a situation where they have a whole nation of whites who really are afraid to say it's the small hats, but they know and they really would like to do something about it, but they're guilt riddled with the whole Hitler Nazi thing, so they don't want to say it's the small hats. We got to put them out of this country, because if they say that, then they'll say they're like Hitler. But deep down inside, that's kind of where the whites are going. So they're trapped with their religious systems and with their leaders being paid off. Many of them don't know, and many of their churches, many of their systems are being run by small hats. The Ku Klux Klan has a number of high-ranking small hats. So the small hats are so deeply entrenched in their own ranks that they don't even understand why they can't move in the direction they want to move. But at any rate, there's a lot of whites that just bottom line recognize that in this country, that the small hats are creating the collapse of this country. They're infuriated by it, and they really want to run them out of this country. Well, the small hats know that, and they know that if the things don't work the way they want them to work, that they can be destroyed. So they're preparing for war with the Anglo-Saxon. And because they keep black people largely ignorant and unaware of what's going on and unorganized, and they dominate and control our leadership, they're not as concerned about us because we're not organized, we're not armed. We have the intellectual capacity to create a problem, but we're not doing it. There are only a few venues that are posing any threat, and those venues that are posing threat is all intellectual. They have not organized to become threatening to them. So their focus in the beginning, and the Magic Mulatto's focus, who's been reselected, will not be black people. It will be racist whites. And this is the plan. So you can, with the separatist whites, the whites, they recognize the small hats have taken over their country. They want these small hats out, but they also want small hat dominion internationally to end. And so in order to crush this strong element of whites, what the white small hat is going to do, I want you to listen very carefully because you're going to see it very, very, very clearly. They're going to intensify racial hatred of black people for whites. And this is how they're going to do it. They're going to show a lot of films about lynching, past and present, that whites have done of black people. They're going to show a lot of videos on white supremacists and what they do to black people and them using the N-word. They're going to show a lot of videos showing the white separatist nationalists talking about killing black people and hating black people. In the reverse, in order to get white supremacists mad at black people, they're going to show a lot of interracial stuff, man. They're going to show so many black males sleeping with and sexing up white females. They're going to show so many white males sexing up black women. And they're going to actually, sometimes going to get so bad that they're going to have small hats who are going to pretend to be Klan members, going and murdering black people and leaving KKK stuff behind so that black people think it's the KKK. I'm not saying that the KKK won't kill you. I'm just saying they're going to use every measure possible to strongly intensify racial hatred so that then they're going to make a move that is a move that they've made before. And our brother Lewis, Ali, and brother Body Shots kind of hipped us to this, but we can actually see it happening now. Then what they're going to do, because the small hats are not really in a position to physically go and assault anybody themselves. They don't do most of their own fighting. They get others to do it. They fight by proxy, meaning they get somebody else to fight for them. What they're going to do is they're going to use the Magic Mulatto to say we have internal threats to the United States. The black nationalist community, because we're the most intelligent black people in our community and the only ones that know what's going down, we will be targeted. We will be targeted. But we will not be the primary target. I know some people don't like hearing that because they think that, we're the best. Some people like hearing that because who wants to be the primary target of these crackers, But actually, we don't pose the biggest threat to them at the moment.